Hey, everybody, welcome back. We got the whole crew here. Did you guys notice some of these were showing already, but we got to call them out again. 3 new members, Chell 49, Jessica Shades, and Montana Knight Rider. And everybody that's in the chat that's green, if I understand things right, Tyler, they all can just ask us questions and they can call in, right? Or how are we going to work that so that those that are listening?
We'll put the link in the description. I mean, not in the description, in the comments.
Yeah. And is everybody seeing the comments that come in, or just the channel members?
That's a good question. Who knows? This is all new to us.
We'll learn a lot as
we're just testing this stuff out. This is fun.
First question I have for those that are in the chat room already or listening in is we're trying to. I'm trying to loosen up a little and be a little less programmatic. And I missed, because I don't have good eyesight, I missed a lot of questions. And so if you had a question earlier that you didn't get to ask, please ask it again. And Mark and I will try to respond to it, or anyone. We're going to have the whole back office on with us tonight as we talk through it.
I have something to show Mark real quick, actually.
What?
Well,
I don't know that I can actually see it.
My first comment is I have never been told I can't drive for drinking too much Diet Dr. Pepper. So it can't be that bad for you. Okay, that's the first comment. The second thing I want to show you is this. Yuck. Is this right here. Okay, so this is the extent of the research I've done on Dr. Pepper. But I don't think there is anything out there for what you're drinking that a 104-year-old lady has said has kept her alive.
I don't know. I think it was George Burns who kept saying he was staying alive because of cigars and booze, wasn't it?
Yeah. Was he 104?
He was over 100.
Yeah. Okay, well, you find an article that says he's over 104, and I'll believe it.
So we have a few people from out of the country that don't know what Dr. Pepper is. So here's
what? In fact, I have a couple of conferences overseas, particularly Europe, where Diet Dr. Pepper or Dr. Pepper can't be found. And I was at a conference in Ljubljana last year before COVID struck. And I always take a 6-pack of Diet Dr. Pepper with me. And it was actually like selling crack cocaine to a guy from America who, when he saw it on my shelf, came over and said, "I'll give you anything you want if I can have that Diet Dr. Pepper." So yes, it's like Coke. It's better, but much better.
Yeah. So
you really are addicted. You really are addicted to that stuff.
So somebody asked what the green names mean. That just means you're a member. If your name is green in the chat, it means you're a member.
So, and that's a difference between being subscribed and a channel member, right?
Yeah.
So, yes. In fact, maybe we could just, for those that are listening in that might be interested, you can just look up channel memberships on the YouTube site and learn about those. But not only is it a great way for you to support us and the efforts that we have, but it's a way in which you can get more information, oftentimes ahead of others who aren't channel members. We try to roll everything out eventually to everyone. I mean, we're able to do some. There we go. Another.
I found this in the only shop in Spain that had 1 can of Dr. Pepper.
In Spain, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You cannot. I don't know how I found it, but they had 1 can sitting there. It looks like it probably came from an airline or something.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I just want to finish on my thought on those of you who provide help to us. We're able to do a lot of really nice things. Last year, Mark, we gave money to Operation Underground Railroad. We helped in a couple of criminal investigations where we paid for things that law enforcement couldn't pay for or that victims couldn't pay for. So it's really nice. And I just want the back office to know, because they also are committed to this channel and this idea that I appreciate what they do, because it certainly isn't for compensation, but what you do give folks really does help us a lot. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, that's great. Absolutely.
Michelle Leonardo, I'm excited to be here for the first time. Well, Michelle, we're excited to have you here, and thank you so much. I think this is a new experience for you, Mark, on this back office side of the fence. This is a really intimate group that really support us at a high level. And we just try to, sometimes we bring them on and we talk face to face to them, but we just try to make it special for those that are so special to us.
Awesome. No, this is my first time, and I'm excited.
I'm going to put the link in the chat. So if anybody would like to jump in and ask either Mark or Mike some questions, or please put your questions in the chat, and we're going to look at those and pop them up as soon as we see them.
So I'm going to try to decipher this one.
Yeah, I don't know what this is saying, Chell 49.
So if I'm correct, there's a popular podcast that has to do with the Delphi murders, and I think one of the episodes is down the hill. So I think I could be wrong, but
no. In fact, that is actually in reference. And please, Chell, let me know if I've got this right. But that's in reference to the most probable killer of the Delphi girls. That's the last comment that was recorded on one of the children's cell phones as they were being approached by the suspect in the case. He's him directing him down the hill before they walked him over to the river. And then, of course, the girls crossed the river either by force or fleeing. Mark, we don't know, but that's where their bodies were recovered. So yeah, Delphi girls. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks. And Billy X20, thank you so much for that kind donation. That's hey, there you go, Mark. She's shouting you out. You're amazing, which is something I've said for many years. So
thanks.
Hey, there's a question there real quick before we move on about Discord, Tyler. We've had a lot of talks about getting our Discord up and running a little bit more. Anything we want to say yet, or just keep your eyes open?
Yeah, it's out there. We just need to pay attention to it more, I think. So, yep. Mike has a new toy.
Hey, folks, they hooked me up with a sound box. They said that I need to learn how to use it. So it may be the only sound I have. I don't know. I'll have to read up on it. But so you're saying we're gonna try to get the Discord thing going a little more actively?
At least we'll be in it. We haven't been participating in it.
Oh, great. Because I know we've had some of our moderators in there, and some of our members have done a great job of keeping up on that. Miss Sophia is asking, do you think law enforcement is protecting that suspect? Miss Sophia, are you saying the suspect in Delphi? And Mark, I don't know if you've had much of a chance to look into that case. I don't believe for a moment law enforcement's protecting the suspect. I think they're trying to figure out who the suspect is. And that image that they have, if you're saying, are they protecting what they may have about that suspect? That's a more interesting question. They may have information that they aren't sharing. And I would certainly hope they have information that they're not sharing, because we're certainly not seeing the case get solved, and it's gone on an awfully long time.
Yeah. Yeah. They might have holdback information, but if you have holdback, you typically have a suspect that you're focused on, because the holdback information really relates to an interview strategy, basically separating somebody who you are pretty sure did it from other people that may confess to it or have cursory knowledge of it. So my guess is they don't have holdback information. And if you look at that video, it's so grainy that it's very difficult both in the voice to understand, to discern anything from that or from the video. It's not much.
Yeah. Wasn't that, hey, MH, thank you so much for that kind donation. I'm going to have Skylar tell you about one of his favorite South Africa stories here in a second, because
Well, that's a Rand, isn't it? Isn't that a Rand? Who was that? MH. We haven't seen a Rand in a long time.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Thanks down in South Africa. Don't know, MH. Let us know which city you're from down there, or which township or whatever. Mark, I had a son who lived down there for a couple of years, and he actually ended up living in Namibia. And I remember the first photo he sent home was he was a missionary. He and another missionary were standing with a group of naked women who had just gotten out of wash day. And so they were posed with all those. That was the first picture his mother got of him after he left home.
Nice.
And they were in a tribal area that they would just, after they washed, they would cover themselves with mud to keep the bugs and other things from hurting them. But any favorite stories from down there, Skylar?
I'm trying to think of any. I
It
mean,
cracked me up.
we kind of lived the sweet life. He made sure we stayed in the nicer, places, but yeah, I don't really remember a whole lot.
Yeah. Mimi JT
Johannesburg.
Mark has a question. Can somebody read that has good vision?
When they hold information close to the vest, could there be multiple people there watching?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I just think it's important. You always want to have some holdback information. You hold it back from both the families and from the public. And that's, it's an interesting dynamic, Mike, and it's something maybe you want to talk about at some point. We always think that families are, tightly tied to law enforcement because they're working the case of a loved one. But there's a lot of instances where when the results, aren't what they're looking for, or the investigation stalls, the families will turn on law enforcement. And actually, it's why you have holdback information from families, because in some cases they'll release that holdback information if they know it. So you have to be careful at times how you deal with families, because it can turn around on you.
That's really true. And, we've had a couple of cases on the channel that we've talked about where that's been the exact case. And one I think of is like the case of Brian McKenzie, and law enforcement and his mother have had a really difficult time in communicating. And it's in situations like that where law enforcement or the family should find an intermediary that could actually be the one to get that information back and forth, because sometimes the emotion's just too darn high.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've seen family members sabotage the law enforcement investigation. And it's because initially they gave them so much information about the case because they were cooperative. But there are cases where when things aren't proceeding the way the family thinks, or they're not focusing on people that the family thinks they should be focusing on, if they have that information, sometimes they intentionally release it. They just completely ruin an investigation, ruin the prosecutorial component of it.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line. You got, when you're in law enforcement, you want to share information, but you got to be careful what you share.
Yeah. What we don't do well enough, Mark, and I think law enforcement could become better at this, is we don't come up, even if it's a one-way transaction, of letting the family know we haven't forgotten you, sending them a note and saying, hey, we're still working your case. Because too often families feel like they are completely shut out, and they just need to know that somebody still cares.
Well, in a lot of cases, they are shut out, and that's really a problem. I'm totally in agreement with you on this. Communication is so important with victims' families, and not at the initial investigation, not only at the initial investigation, but as the months and years go by, you've got to stay in touch. You've got to keep them updated. And so many times, you got cold case squads working cases, and nobody's talked to the family in years. It's a travesty.
All right, we got some questions piling up here. We want
Hey,
to try
let's
to
go to them. Jessica's
Go.
asking about when going undercover, how do you pick your team? I'm going to answer this one, Mark. Fill in if there's something I missed, but then we'll move to the next one. And why don't you take the next one? I have no idea what it is, but it's kind of a two-way street. Sometimes you get to choose who your team is. Other times the team is chosen because of the unit that you work in, or a group of detectives that are on the afternoon shift get put on a detail. Sometimes on big investigations, like my case with Deceived, I was able to go out and select the investigators that I lean based on capabilities that they had. But it's kind of a mixed bag. There you go, Mark.
Yep.
Teresa Monroe says, does law enforcement not give
Well,
out?
hold on.
Oh.
She's talking about joining the StreamYard, so we don't want to answer her question until she does, right?
Oh,
She's
she's
talking
joining?
she's talking about in chat hopping in here, so we want to encourage her to do that by maybe not answering her question until she does.
Oh, put some pressure on her, huh? All right, Teresa, you got to step up.
Is
All
that
right.
is that hold back?
Maybe they didn't think you were capable of answering this question, Mark.
Is that hold back? I just want to know.
Yeah.
Hold back
We'll
information.
let Mark Google real quick and then
Yeah, let me check my notes on this. Right.
they need the here.
Mark, Mary Jetta's asking, is there anything new on the West Boys from California City? Are you familiar with that case? I got that one pretty good.
The West Boys. No, I'm not.
West Boys are two little boys named Orson and Oren who 100 days ago disappeared just a few days before Christmas, 23rd of December. The family has been under the spotlight, mom and dad. There's been a lot of allegations because some people don't like the way that they provided some statements to the news media. We actually, I brought on Dr. Judy Ho with me to talk about this thing that we can't put our own personal feelings about how you'd respond into other people as they work this case. But they have transferred from California City, which is a 17-officer police department, responsibility for the case over to Bakersfield. Bakersfield's now conducted a couple of search warrants. It's covering multiple cities. FBI and the county attorney and the county sheriff are involved in it. Boys haven't been found yet. Boils down to where they murdered was a child trafficking kind of an issue. It's really complicated because the birth parent had some allegations of physical abuse, lost the children. They became foster parents and eventually adopted the children. And then the children disappeared while 4 of their other children, 2 natural, 2 foster, remained in the home. So lots of weird questions. But bottom line is, to answer that question, no, there has been no movement that we're aware of other than police are working feverishly, which tells you that something's cooking.
Is that Bakersfield PD or is that Kern County Sheriff's Office?
It's both Kern, but Bakersfield PD owns the case now because the family moved from Bakersfield to California City, and then the boys disappeared. And so because they have an anchor in the investigation, they've given them the case, and so they're owning the case, but it's obviously still a California City.
Yeah, I think the DA in Kern County is the prosecutor that I worked with on the brothers mass murder case that I testified in, and that was a Bakersfield case, so I know a number of the Bakersfield homicide detectives as well.
Oh yeah.
Here's a good one for Mark. Can anyone answer why they would not have tased Floyd versus blocking his airflow? Law enforcement teaches you the amount of pressure and the amount of time it takes to do internal damage at the neck. Oh, that's a question. Does law enforcement, do you get taught of the time it takes to do internal damage at the neck? Why didn't they tase him, I guess, is the...
Why didn't they tase him? I mean, I know just because of the amount of research I've done on this particular area, but I never had any training in that area. But my training never was about kneeling on the neck. It was always about kneeling between the shoulder blades, right below the neck, because that's a control point. But I think Mike's point was a good one. Over that period of time, is the one photograph when his knee is on the neck, but are there other times when it's not on his neck? But the neck's just a bad area to be kneeling on. It's well protected, but it's a dangerous area.
Well, and Tim, to the tasing question, I think something interesting to consider for that question is that Floyd, other than the fact that they had to display a weapon to get him compliant enough, they actually got him handcuffed. And so there's really no sense in tasing him at that point. He was concerned about his claustrophobia, and then he started the fight inside the car. But they had enough officers. His hands were, again, in handcuffs. So tasing him may have been too much force at that point. And so they try to keep him subdued while they're waiting. And the police chief today talked about the fact that they couldn't hog tie him, which was what they were talking about doing because he kept kicking. They couldn't hog tie him until a supervisor arrived at the scene to say you're authorized to do that. So they had multiple officers holding him there. But man, I just keep going back, Mark, to 2 minutes and 53 seconds after the officer says, "I don't feel a pulse."
Yeah, you just can't do that. It's just you can't.
I have a question after this one from Terry.
It's based on control. When do you have control of the individual? Right.
Yeah.
And when you have control, it's much like, when officers get in shootings, they shoot suspects, but right after they shoot them and they're incapacitated, they start giving CPR. That's what you are trained to do. Once you've neutralized a threat, then you have to provide, life-saving measures.
Yeah. Go ahead, Skylar. And then,
let's.
Yeah, there's
Connor's asking about the Suzanne Morphew case. Any thoughts on what could be going on? Actually, we're nearing Mother's Day, the 1-year anniversary of Suzanne disappearing. It is incredibly quiet. We know that Barry Morphew sold the home. If you watched, I put up some documents a few weeks ago and talked about the fact after visiting with some lawyers in Colorado, a couple of goofy things happened. Originally, they had to go in and correct the original sales document, Mark, which they didn't get all the signatures they needed. So they've been living in a house for a number of years with all the signatures that were required. But the husband of Suzanne Morphew was able to get conservatorship in Indiana, and they were able to get Colorado to accept that conservatorship and then transfer the ability for him to sign for her. And within 2 minutes of each document, they had the house sold. And so he now has the money, and he is able to do what he wants to do. And it will be interesting to see if he stays in the area to continue to look for his wife like he said he has feverishly been doing for the last year, or if he'll disappear. So
when it comes to profiling, you guys talk about anniversaries too, right? So what are your thoughts with the anniversary coming up? Is what we're seeing in the case maybe going to show that something might happen, or is it kind of like, who knows, but typically anniversaries cause something to happen?
Yeah, Mark, so that's kind of an interesting question.
But it depends on the case. It depends on the type of case. Anniversaries for us are, in the unit are important, especially in complex serial cases with unknown offenders, where at least the behavior in the case suggests that there is that the offender is returning to the scene, returning to the bodies. But in a case like this, I don't think the anniversary will have any difference, make any difference at all.
Now, I think one of the things that gets interesting in this is will the anniversary date create any kind of publicity stunt for the police to do something, to announce something, or to put forth a new initiative? Will it regenerate energize the community to do something that wouldn't happen otherwise without an anniversary date?
Yeah, it might. It's if you believe that he's the suspect in this case, he's already engaged in behavior that would be really, I guess, eye raising for most people. Selling the house, so quickly afterwards. The anniversary, impacting him with the anniversary date, unlikely. And I mean, it's only 1 year, so probably it's already there's still enough media coverage on it that probably won't make much difference.
Yeah.
Use anniversary dates to impact oftentimes not the offender, but the people around the offender, right? But it's probably not going to be helpful in a case like this. In other cases, the anniversary date can be very important.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, speaking of anniversaries, when's the anniversary of this channel? We're coming on a year.
Yeah, you can still. Oh, yeah, folks, you can still buy your rookie year cups, but July is. I think July was launch date, wasn't it, guys?
Sooner than that, because you're covering Suzanne Morphew.
We have covered her down the road, though. Yeah,
that's right.
Come with a certificate for a free Dr. Pepper to put in that cup.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'm going to look and see when we started the first video.
Okay,
and there was a question up from Mimi J2 about Derek Chauvin and the look on his face. And again, I'll let you take this one that's up on the screen, Mark. But it's really difficult to just take a photograph and determine what someone is like or who they're like. I think I try to be a pretty kind person most of the time, but there are pictures of me where I don't have a kind look on my face, and I'd hate people to judge me for that one picture. So I don't know. That's a tough.
It's very difficult with a single photograph. You'd have to watch it, and we don't know what his concern is. Is he concerned with people that are around him, family members, other? I don't know. I wouldn't take it off of one photograph. Yeah. I mean, if you look at it and watch the whole video, you're going to get a much better sense of that, but not off a photograph.
Yeah. Well, good. June 19th is our anniversary, huh? Sweet. I don't know if that falls on a day that we meet. Maybe we'll have to meet anyway. There was a question that was up there just a second ago. Do we have that one still?
There's a couple.
The girl, was it about the girls?
Yeah, there was one about the girls.
Why aren't they talking?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what, folks? It's so interesting. Again, it boils down to us not putting too much stock in the fact that, hey, I wouldn't act that way, because some families, that may be exactly the way they always respond to situations. So we just need to be patient and hope that they are looking for their mom as much as everyone else is.
Yeah.
Just looking through this.
So, Mark, what have you got coming down the pike? What's the next fun thing that has nothing to do with work?
Fun thing. Do I do fun things? I don't know.
I've heard.
All the time. Let's see. I'm going to go fly my drone this coming weekend, and I'm going to the beach on Thursday. Going down to the beach house for a few days.
Oh, we have somebody here.
That sounds really fun. Maybe Tyler, you could tell him about when I flew your drone.
Yeah, the first time he flew it, went right into his pond.
Really?
I've never seen Tyler go into a body of water as fast. And my wife was in the background screaming at me, "You're paying for that."
Hey, it still flies. That was the very first drone I ever bought, and it still works.
Wow.
I think we hooked the leaf blower up to it and let the leaf blower run all day.
Oh, jeez. All right, we got somebody that joined.
Hey,
Louisiana girl, welcome aboard.
One of our newest members, right?
There were several after me, I think, in anticipation of this live.
Well, welcome aboard. And when did you were you number 3 today that just became a member? Uh-oh.
Hopefully you can hear us.
Louisiana girl, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Nope, we've lost you again. Unless it's me, guys.
I'll go back out and try to come back in. Maybe that'll help.
Well,
Sounds
Mark,
good right
from a profiling perspective, she sounds like she's from Louisiana.
I am. I wanted to pick your guys' brain in what you thought about the general uptick in violent crime, just in general. I know here, I'm right outside of Baton Rouge. Our murder rate is like double what it was the last 2 or 3 years. And I don't think it's COVID related because we're like at stage 3. They've even opened up all the bars. You know what I mean? Like, have at it. So I wonder what y'all thought about that.
You know what, Mark? I'm going to let you answer that, but I'm going to preface it with something I read today on CNN's website. I don't know if you caught that one today about the U.S. has seen a significant crime raise in all major cities.
Yeah.
In fact, every major city except for, you'll like this, Baltimore and Raleigh, North Carolina saw increases in violent crime in 2020. And of course, Baltimore has a rough legacy anyway. But
that's because
what are your thoughts?
Their murder rate is so high anyway. That's a really hard question to answer because it always depends on the city. It always depends on what's going on in the city in terms of homicides and, are we talking Portland, Oregon? Are we talking Chicago? The uptick in violent crime is it's noticed all over, but it probably is going to vary depending on the jurisdiction. I think it's just a really hard question to answer as a general, as a general reason.
Yeah, what we do know from this article is that Chicago's up 33% in the first 3 months of this year on homicides. Shootings are up 40%. New York City is showing murders jumping at 14% this year, and shootings are up 50% over last year at the same time. So, some of those major cities are seeing dramatic increases, and we actually
think a lot of those major cities are doing a lot of catch and release. They're arresting people, and then they're immediately bailing. They're immediately releasing them. Violent offenders. They're releasing people out of prison, violent offenders out of prison because of COVID. So is it related to, more violent offenders back on the street? Is it related to individuals who don't, who feel emboldened because they can commit crimes, get arrested and get released? Yeah, it's probably a multifaceted answer.
That's a tough one.
And
Stephanie L., welcome
better
aboard.
answered by a criminologist like Alan Fox or Dallas Drake with the Homicide Research Group. So those are people that would probably know the answers to the question, or at least have a better handle on it.
Yeah,
but I think there's a lot of reasons for it. But catch and release has got to be a big one.
Well, and the tough question that some of these major cities are going to have to answer are going to be when they make a decision like releasing more parolees and probationers, or releasing more inmates from prison, and all of a sudden there's an increase in crimes and their recidivism crimes where offenders are going back for the same crime. There's going to be some splaining to do in regard to decisions that are made, and some of those might be knee-jerk, where we're seeing I heard one Baltimore cop a few days ago say, we were defunding yesterday and refunding today because we're realizing that maybe the pendulum swung too far.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have Gascon in Los Angeles, the DA there. It's, he's getting rid of the gang unit, street gang unit. So, I
Yeah.
mean, what happens when you don't have a gang unit working gangs? The gangs feel emboldened to, act out against others. I mean, it's a really complex problem. It's a lot of different facets to it.
And Mimi J2 wants to know how many Diet Dr. Peppers I drink a day, and I would answer just about any question that Mimi asks, but because it's a prescription, HIPAA would require more information in order to release that information, Mimi. So Ponytail, logging along, a new member, welcome aboard.
You don't take it intravenously, do you?
Never during a weekday. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only while you sleep, right?
That's right.
So
Mark, how do you switch from the monsters you look at to being just a dad and a husband and a drone pilot?
No, it's a good question, and I get it a lot. It's being able to differentiate and separate the work life from the home life, and I don't mix the two. So they're completely separate. It doesn't mean I don't think about cases when I'm home or when I'm doing something else, but I have the ability to emotionally dissociate those two events from one another.
Hey, Crystal, I have that same problem with my Google. It comes on in my office and drives me batty.
Yes, it won't stop playing music. I had something on the Barry Morphew case, and it's probably a not popular opinion, but it's just a thought process. And it's in regards to again, it's just a thought, but with Suzanne Morphew and her having cancer and then being in remission, and then she had cancer again, and then went into remission also again. Thinking on that thought process, if she was to have cancer, to come up with cancer one more time, and if that was the next scenario to come up with her, and she didn't want to fight that battle again this time, and her and Barry had that conversation about that, and her making that decision and everything. I hate to say it, but I'm very much aware of cancer patients who have fought that good fight on multiple occasions and have ultimately decided not to do it again. And I know her father was not in the best of health when this had all gone down. Just hypothesized, just a theory. I don't like to think of it. I would much rather, unfortunately, Barry have to done something. But maybe an option was that she decided that she was going to go easy into that dark night a different way. Yeah. And he knows that, her kids know that, and for the sake of that was the choice that they decided to make. I hate to say it, but it's just the thought process. Obviously, I don't know anything. I'm a nurse. I've seen crazier things. And it's just something I've thought about. I'd much rather it be something that Barry did, because it's a much better answer for society, honestly, because nobody wants to think of people doing that. But I can't say that it's not something I haven't seen myself.
Well, what I would say to that is then if that discussion had taken place, wouldn't that have been a very reasonable explanation for him to have provided to law enforcement?
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Completely.
I mean, that would have been like the perfect out. Like, we've had this discussion multiple times, and she decided that she just wasn't going to do this again, and she wanted to do it her own way. And I didn't know that she was going to like go off and do it, but that would have been really a good, not a good out, but it would have been a reasonable out. But that didn't ever take place.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, with that, I mean, absolutely, I completely agree with you in that scenario. But what if, I mean, again, what if that maybe they didn't discuss it and maybe she did do that and he doesn't know, or all of those things? I'm just saying,
right. I think
as a
at
case
least the
scenario,
discussion, he would have told police about the discussion, because it gives.
maybe he has.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
don't know.
I'm just talking in generalities.
Right.
I'm just speaking as, a devil's advocate here. Again, it's not a popular opinion. It's just the thought process.
No, I understand. Now here's how I would think about this. And what you're doing is you're saying, is it possible that this happened, right?
Yes, it may not be probable, but it's possible.
Yeah. So I don't even really talk about probabilities in what's possible. That literally there are a million things that are possible. You could think of so many things that are possible, but we can't really deal with, in law enforcement, with possibilities, because possibilities are endless. So what we have to deal with is what's likely by reasonable inference. So we would look statistically at that. How often does that dynamic occur, where you certainly have lots of people with cancer, and you have lots of people who say, I'm not going to do any more chemo. But how many of those people actually disappear to die on their own, and without anybody else knowing? It's probably very small. And is there anything to support that? Is there anything reasonable that we can infer from anything that's been said or done? Probably not. So
Probably not. I completely agree with you.
I try not to deal with what's possible, because I get that a lot from officers. Well, isn't it possible? I'm like, okay, let's not talk about what's possible. Let's talk about what's reasonable, by reasonable inference, what is likely, or something we can support by reasonably inferring from evidence or behavior, or statements made by others. That's I think the strongest way to approach things like that. Because if you start going down the tangent of what's possible, then you get lost in the morass of just all kinds of things.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Like I said, it's not a popular opinion. It's just it was a thought process with it.
Yeah.
And since
But
Barry's
very,
not
very
saying
real.
anything, and the girls aren't saying anything, and nobody's saying anything, it's like, is there an alternative reason why they're not saying anything? And maybe it's because what they would say is not nice, and they don't want to shed any negative light on their mom or their wife. And the best thing is to just say she's missing, instead of, my mom didn't want to fight cancer anymore, and she ended up taking her own life, and not making her look bad to her father and her brother and all of these things. Again, it's a crappy answer to a bad situation. But again, is it possible? And I know, it's like I said, it's not nice, but then I would much rather Barry do it. But
Well, let me just ask you something, Christy, to think about, and we're going to move on to the next question. But think about the fact that, again, those girls are probably Suzanne's most treasured possession. So would she leave that quickly? would she have had the conversation she was having with her friend about the upcoming wedding the night before and being full of life? Would she be making plans, like some evidence has come that she was making plans for the future with? There are a lot of things that we would have to just kind of behaviorally look at. And I loved Mark's assessment last time we talked about that inference and the fact that we could chase possibilities forever. But really, would she have done those things? And then if in fact that all happened, would the girls have created a GoFundMe page and other things that would be clearly defrauding if they knew what was going on? And so
I
think
highly
those,
doubt it.
yeah, those are great questions that you have. And boy, I'll tell you, thank you for all the thought, and thank you for your service. I want to move on and thank Christy for this kind super sticker. Christy Bushy, thank you. And then I know we have Free Spirit, but Crystal, would you please kind of keep noodling that one around, and next month let's maybe explore it further.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's just a thought, but I mean, like I said, I definitely think Barry did something. That's my opinion. But again, it's just, something in the back of my head that's always been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Free Spirit, what's on your mind? And I think what we'll do is use you as our last question for the night.
Okay, my question's kind of a twofold question, because we have two trials that are greatly affecting the Midwest, and I think, and one kind of spawned out of one case in particular, which was the Minnesota case. What is, and this one would be more better directed at Mark, perhaps, because we've seen the outrage, and most of us, I think, in the room tonight are old enough to remember the Rodney King case back in the early 80s. What, in your expert opinion, do you think that this has that much energy to occur? That to see that kind of outrage, because now we have a capital case basically going on in Kenosha, because I'm an Iowa resident and a Wisconsin resident, with Mr. Rittenhouse in Kenosha, from the Kenosha individual, and then we have the Chauvin case, and one sparked the other. The Kenosha case was a reaction out of the Minnesota case. What is the likelihood that we see a major wide-scale riot to the proportion of the Rodney King case coming out of the Chauvin case?
I mean, so if are you saying if Chauvin is if those who are protesting don't get the verdict that they're looking for, do you think there'll be riots?
Well, Hennepin County over the last 40 years has failed to bring a conviction. 40 years they have failed to convict a cop for anything. That's 4 decades.
Okay.
They have failed to bring forth a conviction. Do we see something to that scale of Rodney King, or do we think that it's going to be worse?
Boy, that's a difficult question. I think if those who are looking for the most significant conviction, the most significant charge in a conviction, if that doesn't happen, there probably will be some rioting, I would suspect. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
because there's people that only want one charge convicted, and if that doesn't occur, then I wouldn't be surprised to see it. Sure.
I see this as somebody who spends an awful lot of time investigating. Either way, there's going to be it's going to riot either way, whether they convict him or not. I see that there's going to be serious unrest, and I'm about 3.5 hours from the cities.
Yeah.
Well,
it's been serious unrest for 9 months.
And every day it's been growing. And my primary city of residence is less than 7,000. And we've had some issues, even out here on a little river town. We've had some issues. But my question is in your experience, and I forget in the last show how many years law experience you said you had, do you see that this is going to run long?
The trial?
No, the chaos after.
Wow, that's really difficult. I guess it just depends on what happens in the case. Yeah, it's I think if there's a conviction, but it's not what most people are looking for, there'll be riots.
Yeah. Free Spirit, thank you so much. I think you're right, Mark. I think what is it that we always say? Past behavior is indicative of future behavior. There's a lot of pain and hurting out there right now, and our country is still going through a pretty big evolution, and hopefully we're going to just get better and better as time goes on. But Free Spirit, thank you so much. It's so great to hear your voice again.
Well, thank you much, you guys.
Take care.
Right.
Thanks.
See ya.
Yep.
Well, I want to go around the horn real quick and see if we got any business we need to cover. Tyler, what's going on? Anything we need to talk about?
Not that I can think of. I don't know what camera I'm looking at now.
All right.
I'm good.
Tim?
We're almost to that 60,000 subscriber mark, so we need you to share with all 800 of your friends. Well, you out there, you listeners, you viewers, share with 800 of your friends to get us over that 60,000 hump. It'd be really cool to see 100,000 subscribers this year. So I think that's the next milestone. So I just wanted to shout that one out. So share this channel with your friends, everyone.
Yeah, that's great.
And family.
Skyler?
No, I think we need to come up with a giveaway again. It's been a minute since we've done that, and so maybe in the chat or in the comments, let's talk what's exciting, like T-shirts, cups, books. What do we like? We want it to be something you guys want, or Mike would just have us giving away boxes of Altoids or something like that. So, or Dr. Pepper, Tyler.
Yeah, we may have to do that.
Well, we need a profiling evil, like what are those little fishing? Like you take fishing, you put your cans inside the holders, can holder probably.
You need a challenge coin. You need a profile challenge coin.
Yeah,
we talked about that.
Yeah.
Hey,
well, there you go, everyone. We
looks like Ray Kelly is weighing in. I don't know. Mark Ray is a retired Suffolk cop. If you remember the Missy Beavers case, he is actually the police officer who went in and pulled Missy out of that dungeon. And he's gonna be on in a couple of weeks. We're gonna talk. So Ray, great to hear from you. He's sunning down in the southern part of the country and heading home to New York soon. So I'm gonna leave the final word to you, Mark, and thank you again for coming on.
Hey, it was great. I enjoyed it, and my first time on with the members in questions, which I always love questions, especially if I have no idea what they're going to be. I like them when they're about profiling and serial murder, complex murder cases and that sort of thing. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was great. Good to be back, and look forward to being back again.
Well, thanks a lot. And to our mods who just support us day in and day out, thank you. But you know what? I mean, if you look in that chat box tonight, it's all green names, and that means that you all are supporting us financially, and but more importantly, we can feel your support every time we get online and do something. I hope you'll continue to consider checking out Profiling Evil and Mapping Evil on your favorite podcast platform. And like Tim said, please share and help us push over the 60,000 mark. That's pretty darn exciting, considering we're younger than a year old right now. So from all of us at Profiling Evil, have a great night. And to all of you, especially the back office, I want to just say thank you. We'll continue to get better. So have a good night, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, guys.
Yep. See ya.